Shalom. Peace. However y'all want to agree. Gonna continue second video be on the spirit of the flesh by personal request. I'm my brother on the book wanted me to finish down the verses in Galatians 5 from 19 to 26. To schematic that real quick, try to tell y'all what it's gonna briefly be about. I will try to be as quick as possible. Verse 21 is gonna be specifying some things and times that Eden told us before. It's Paul speaking her to be specific, and I'm gonna lay that down for y'all on what he could and possibly and do mean in that verse. 19 and 21 talks about the direct fruits of the flesh. Exactly what the fruits is as far as the word usage we can use or how we can identify it in one word of action. Verses 22 and 23 will be direct fruits of the spirit, but I won't elaborate on that on this film. I will be saving it for another time. Verse 24 is basically giving your soul to Christ. Only people that sell their soul is going to reap these benefits that I will elaborate on once I start reading. And verse 25 repeats verses 22 and 23. And we will have that conclusion of verse 26. To start off verse 19, it says, "Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, and lasciviousness." That's all concludes verse 19. Now, the works that are manifest, which are these: adultery. That's specifically as far as the flesh or carnal would be a man laying with a woman that is betrothed or in a relationship with a man or married, period. She already has a man involved in her life that is not her father or her sibling. It would be an outside sibling that she's in a relationship with, and this man involves himself with her sexually or even lusts after her knowing that she's somebody else's. Fornication. That goes into, as far as the definition is concerned, let's go ahead and break that down because that's a word that people use real loosely. So to be clear on that, both definitions would be voluntary unmarried sex on both parties, meaning that the man has no woman at home and he has no intent to be married to the woman that he is laying with. It's just a what they call today a fuck thing or a boo thing, like it is in these songs. And it also says idolatry. And idolatry is the first definition. So basically worshiping another god is the first step of fornication, which is still a work of the flesh. And the second one is being with a woman. Next one would be uncleanliness. That's going to both ways, giving out and taking in. If you're giving out uncleanliness or taking in uncleanliness, giving it out will be a point of basically somebody who's an outlaw, just have no law, a lawless person, and no regard. They would it take anything, whatever you tell them they believe or use and whatever, or misinterpret. It just like no registration, no useful gifts of discretion, discernment, anything. Just flat out intake. Like for an example, somebody who you put something on their plate, they don't ask you what it is or nothing, they just eat it. They don't ask where it's from, if they should or shouldn't be eating. They don't question or try to spur it first before acting. They just go ahead and do it. Lasciviousness is a strong, lustful person. Somebody who just gotta have the sex, period. No righteous intent, no nothing. Let's say on street terms, they would say, "I just need to get my dick wet." A girl's been too long, I might need to eat some, hit up somebody. It just don't matter who it is, you need to go ahead and get you some sex off. Verse 20. Idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies. Okay? Idolatry is worshiping another god, period. Or another being or another thing. Anything. Because just like they tell you any AA, NA, all these little meetings they try to cleanse you with, anybody who might be so-called sick according to drugs, they say anything could be your God as long as you have a higher power. Meaning it could be this heater, it could be this wall, It could be my hair. It could be LeBron James. It could be Jay-Z, Lil Wayne. A lot of people do that. Idolizing American Idol. Idolatry. Meaning this whole show, that whole shebang is for naught and for vanity, and it can't get you to the kingdom. And the next one, witchcraft. That's any form of sorcery, cursing, misfortunes, casting spells, anything of that nature. Hatred. You know what that is. You like a bitterness towards somebody to the point where you just you start indulging towards the hatred or the feeling. You make sure that it's either shown or it's something like basically a grudgeful person. You keep going or riding something that they either do or do not know about. They have something or doing something that you are incapable of or cannot have. Therefore, instead of promoting them or giving them props, you do the exact opposite and you despise them like Esau did Jacob after he gave away the birthright. Variance. I looked that up yesterday. That's basically being strange, setting difference. Out of nowhere, all this life, you used to, your own customs and your own nation, what you grown up doing, what you know that your culture does, and out of nowhere, you do examples like you get a mohawk or something, or a strange person out of nowhere, like across the neck, or, tramp stamp person, or, strange thing, tats, period. And strange tats are making sure that your tattoo's better than somebody else's. Emulations. That's a desire or effort to be equal or to be better than somebody, which would still go back to, variance. So it's a more in-depth emulation. You keeping up with the Joneses. You got to be on that person's level to be satisfied. Wrath, which will go, next to hatred, but wrath is the set point of, vengeance. And that's why he says be slow to wrath, because that we will try to pay somebody back. Like the street sayings, you got me effed up. We always have some kind of way of feeling like somebody owe us something when they do something wrong to either get things back right, when we got to understand the spirit, because that's still a flesh mindset at that point to even use wrath. Especially without God's permission, is vengeance is mine, said the Lord. Strife. That's rivalry right there. Like when people say, oh man, we gotta make sure these two people don't get together. They always clash. Every time they don't, make sure you don't mention these words or don't talk about this and that, because they gonna get to going at it, and we came over here just to kick it and do woo wop. We don't need them over there messing up the whole scene because they don't like each other already as it is, especially on that subject. That's strife right there. If you beefing with somebody on a particular subject and you still gonna be around them, try to avoid the strife. Seditions. I looked that up. That's incitement or discontent or rebellion against a government. So that would conclude, I do apologize, 2 Chainz, no riots for you if you trying to get to the kingdom. You can't be doing that. Purpose rebellion is not good. And being forced in a situation or circumstantial situations, that's different. That's not the same thing as rebellion. You're not supposed to sag it. You purposely, when you look in the mirror, making sure it's down a certain way to where you looking outside, or when you walk outside, people like me gotta come and mistake you for what originated in the penitentiary. Because you choose to rebel against the law that say it's a certain code that give us a normal way of dress, and you want to be opposite of that because you don't got no logical reason, but because they say one thing, you want to do another because you don't want to answer to nobody. That's rebellion. And if you doing it on any level, okay, definitely. And I'm just gonna hit some people. I don't care anything I'm reading. It cuts me too. But hey, if it cuts you, oh well, hopefully you grow from it like every cut does for me, because I get cut and still live. I'm still here. People who would come up, okay, you ain't supposed to be eating that pork, but not, oh yeah, they grab it, eat it anyway, and be like, oh yeah, let's see what God gonna do to me. I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna be good, I'm gonna be fine. My grandma's still alive, auntie, all of that. You can't tell me nothing. Get that Bible out my face. And of course, yes, I'm reading it directly out of the scriptures. Next one, heresies, opinion or doctrine at variance with the orthodox or accepted doctrine, especially of a church or religious system. So this is somebody who purposely, they see the fruit growing, they see somebody being awakened, and they come just jump in with either an opinion, something they made up, or something they heard, or something they considered to be doctrine, or what they consider to be facts, or movable to somebody's spirit, and they bring it to the table to influence them different or contrary to the fruit of God. That's what that would be as far as, I mean, well, in this situation, the fruit of God, but in any situation, the fruit of anything, because I would be a heresy if I did that in Satan's camp, and no lie, I would end up probably doing that. And if I end up making mistakes and being wrong for that, because I still got to have the fruit of the Spirit, I count myself wrong, and that's something I got to change. But we all, I'm pretty sure it's a lot of things we all do in this book. Ain't none of us perfect. But that's what that would be elaborating on. Somebody who just has to come in and open their mouth because they feel what you saying is incorrect, or they don't like what you saying, or they don't want what you saying to influence that person for the better because of the result that may affect them as well who's hearing it. We'll be at verse 21 now. Sorry if I'm taking too long. Envyings, murderers, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in the past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Envyings, that's hatred towards somebody. You see something they got and you want it, period. And you upset about it. You ain't right about it. That's envying. You cannot do that. What they supposed to have is what they supposed to have. And if they supposed to have it, it's really not up to you, and it's not in your power. You didn't create them, nor did you create you. So it, at the end of the day, has nothing to do with you, unless you gave it to them. And if you feel bad about what you gave them, you got to chunk what you gave them as a loss. Pray, whatever you got to do to clean that out your system. Keep that pushing, because what's given is given. Murderers, that's innocent bloodshed. We're not talking about anything in your perimeter as far as inside of your house, like if you kill a bug or a spider, you know you don't want that in the house. That's not a part of that. A lot of people be too strict trying to walk a fine line that doesn't exist. That's out of boundary. If you don't want bugs in your house, that's your rules in your kingdom. You have that right. You can kill every insect and every animal that sheds up in here, especially like mice and all that. So don't feel bad about that. That's not food. That's unclean things inside your clean environment. Yes, you have the absolute right to get rid of that out of your grass, all of that. But outside of your perimeter, that's innocent bloodshed. Now, I'm not saying, okay, if a situation of a spider on somebody else's territory, yeah, if you know it might be a parasite to them or something they don't like, especially if you know that person, handle it. That's loving our neighbors thyself. But you don't damage people and animals for game or for an unlogical or unreasonable situation. Period. That's murder. If you have no reason behind it, a God authorized reason to be specific, that's murder. Drunkenness, that's over the limit of drink. Period. If you can't handle your substance or whatever you partake, you probably shouldn't do it. Revelings, to take great pleasure or delight, to make merry, indulge in boisterous festivities. So this is basically straight vain, super duper kicking it for no apparent reason, because you're bored. Let's just throw something together. You don't put God's name behind it. It's not according to any feast day. It's not in the likeness of any feast day and the likeness of the way he would instruct you to kick it with your brother. Because yes, you can kick it in this book. But if you're not doing it in his way, you're in a situation of reveling. And he don't like that. And he says, and such like, of the which I told you before, meaning this is in two forms, because see, every script is given by inspiration of God. Christ authorized Paul to be able to say this. So in twofold, this is Christ telling us in the Old Testament, ain't nothing new under the sun. It's always been her these rules. Only thing changed was the priesthood now that he came in on the cross to take away the Levites because they abused it as mankind. We focus more on the spirit, way more, because we couldn't really handle that level of power. And the second form is when Paul, apparently, whoever he was talking to here, if you read this entire chapter or the whole book, wherever he was at, he must have came to these people before. He must have spoke this word before, letting them know it ain't nothing new. It's a practice that you got to keep. You don't be variance or strange or just do something